Morning, rabbis. I want to start with a Moedik Maisa. It's a Maisa Shoyed. It's a true Maisa. Maisa goes like this. I was giving a shiur, a series of shiurim on the halachas of Tevilas Keilim, and a fellow walks in one time at the end of Sheh with a beautiful glass, really nice glass salad bowl. So he says to me, Rabbi, does this require Tevilat Keilim? Do we have to tovel such a thing? So I test it like glass. We'll get to the halachas. I said, what's the shaila? I don't understand. Why would you not? He said, Rabbi, you don't understand. And this shaila, by the way, can only take place here in Eretz HaKodesh. Shaila goes like this. He says to me, I was walking down the street and I saw a beautiful, old, neglected washing machine. And I figured to myself, what a waste. Here I have a washing machine. It's a beautiful washing machine. But say this, and maybe you can't wash clothing. But every washing machine has this big glass, sort of like lid, like, the cover where you close the door, and it's a glass thing. So I took the glass door out, and now I'm going to use it as a salad bowl. So now the shaila is whether or not that requires Tevilat Keilim. That was the shaila. Moedik shaila, Rabbi say. It goes with the shita of the Halacha Balatanya. We don't waste anything. And the Rabbi Shem creates something. We don't waste anything. We keep everything. But Al-Kaponi Rabbi say, I want to tell you why I want to go through this shaila and many others in the sugya of business in halacha. There are numerous shailas that I remember being asked over the years from people in offices, from people owning businesses, restaurants, all sorts of situations that come up in a business life. And Tevilas Keilim. I'll give you an example of a few shailas. We'll try to get to some of them maybe today, tomorrow. For example, you're in an office and you've got goyim over there. And they offer you, you go into the office for a meeting and they offer you a glass of coffee, tea, whatever it may be, right? A glass of water. And it's a glass, right? Or it's a metal cup, whatever it may be. Am I allowed to drink from it if it wasn't toveled? What if, for example, I own an office together with goyim, by partnership with goyim, and we buy together Keilim for the kitchen? Is that allowed to be used, or does it have to be toveled? If you go to a hotel for a business convention and they serve things over there, or in the hotel room, or in the dining room, I'm not discussing kashrus. Kashrus maybe we'll get to a different time. But stam als the Tevilas Keilim shabai. Do I have to tovel the Keilim? Am I allowed to use a kli that was not toveled? For example, shailas come up all the time in businesses about people that own restaurants or something like that. Do I have to tovel all the Keilim in the restaurant? A caterer, a party planner, all of these shailas come up quite common with the shaila of Tevilas Keilim. So I think it's kedai to spend today, probably tomorrow as well, not shy to go through all the halachas in one share, to go through, first of all, we'll start with an introduction to understand, like we normally do, what the halacha is all about, where it comes from, or what's it negaya to, and then be'ezim tomorrow we'll go through some of the heterim that we find and the different, shailas lemaisa that come up. We'll try to answer many of the shailas, but through the klolim that we're going to say, hopefully you'll be able to get many of the answers. So the makor of Tevilas Keilim is a posuk in Bamidbar Perek Lamed Aleph, Parshas Matos, by Klal Yisrael when they had the war, the Milchama with Midian. Pasuk says, Pasuk Chav Gimel, Kol Davar Sheyovoi Ba'esh Taviru Ba'esh. And by the way, do not mix this up with Hagolas Keilim. Hagolas Keilim means that the kli became treif. Something happened to the kli, I now have to kasher it. That's Hagola or Libun, whatever that may be. Arachaim Tofnul Aleph, Yeridei Sema Kuf Chav Aleph, Ayin Shom. But Al Kaponim over here, we're discussing a simple shaila called Tevilas Keilim. That means it's brand new. There's no treif in it, but etzem, it was never used before, and it needs to be toiveled. Right? The pasuk says, Ach b'mei nida yischato, v'chala shelo yavoi b'eish taviru b'mayim, which the Gemara tells us in Avodah Zarah, Avada, this is the makar for Tevilas Keilim. Says the Yerushalmi, where does it come from? What's the pshat Tevilas Keilim? Why do I have to toivel a kli and put it into a mikvah if nothing happened to it? Zug the Heilige Yerushalmi, it's like the tvila of a ger that becomes Jewish. He's a goy, there's a tumah, he becomes Jewish, he has to go to the mikvah. Zug the Yerushalmi, it's the same thing as Yerushalmi in Masechtas Avodah Zarah, that the tumah that is on this item because it belonged to a goy, and those are key words, because it belonged to a goy and now belongs to a yid, has to go to a mikvah in order to matahar it from the tumah of the goy over there. Is this a da'oraisa or d'rabbanan? So we just learned the psukim. That's pretty simple, and that's how most Rishonim. No, it wasn't used. Oh, it was used in a chanami. Even if it was used, but it belonged to a goy. So the shal is the chiyuv of Tevilas Keilim used or not used? Very good. Shmuel saying a good taina. It's not only on new things. Even if I buy something from a goy, let's say he only used it for cold things, so there's no blias and leave out the kashering, but I still have to tovel it because it was owned by a goy and now it's owned by a Jew. So Well, we'll get to all the shaylas. Today I want to get to the Hagdama to understand it, and then we'll get to all the shaylas. So, is it a deraisa d'Rabbanan? Even though we saw the psukim, and the psukim clearly kind of say that one has to do that, and that's how the Rashba learns, at least B'das HaRambam, the Ran, the Ritva, the Isura, Tosus Vid, and Radvaz, and others as well learn that we're dealing with a chi of deraisa. I'm sorry, those are holding the Rabbanan. Slicha. The Rashba and the Das Rambam, the Ran, the Ritva, the Ruah, Tosus Vid, and Radvaz all hold it's a Rabbanan. The Psukim say the drashas and how you learn it out. Most Rishonim hold it's an Echi of the Oraisa to Tevilas Keilim, and that would be Rashi, the Rif, the Rambam, the Ruah, the Rashba, Das Harayvit, the Vilna Goin, the Pritoya, the Shulchan Aruch Harav, the Ben Ish Chai, the Chacham Zodim, some Sefer, and others. That we're dealing with a Echi of the Oraisa, right? That a person has to Tevilas over there. By the way, when you test a kli, it does not require tefillah. So if you're in the store, for example, and you want to see, I don't know how this kli sort of holds liquid in different ways, and I want to test it, there's no chiyuv tefillah. It's not mine. It still belongs to the goyish shop, to the goy. And if that's the case, I'm testing it, like, for example, which we're not going to discuss now, trying on a suit that has maybe a possibility of shatnez, even though there it's a suffix, here it's a vade. But I'll upon him, testing a kli is not a problem, and you're allowed to use it. It's only when you buy it, which, by the way, there are many stores that say, we toivel the kli for you. That doesn't work. It didn't belong to them. And when they have it, it could be that they were never chayiv in tefillah, which we'll get to. It doesn't help for somebody to toivel it for you unless he's a yid and he bought it for you, whatever, which is a side of zachan shalosh shalei b'fanav, whatever. But upon him, you buy it, it becomes yours. It used to belong to a goy. That's when it's chayiv in tefillah in that case. If it was owned by a yid, it doesn't require tefillah, even if a goy made the item. Give you an example. Common shai that comes in all the time. What happens? I just bought a brand new glass for my challah board, right? You know, you have the old challah boards with the wooden challah boards, and on top of it they have the sheet of glass. So it's smashed. So I went to the store and I bought a new glass, right? So the guy who was in the store, and that was owned by a yid, the Yiddish store, the guy over there is cutting the glass for me. He gives me the glass. Now I have to toivel the glass now, right? Because a guy made the kli, I have to toivel it because I got it. The answer is no. It was owned by a yid. I don't care who made the kli. You could have all goyish workers in your warehouse. If it's owned by a Jew, the halacha is, it was always owned by a Jew and went from Jew to Jew. There's no tumah, there's no Tevilas Keilim in that case. The other way around is a little bit more complicated. If it was owned by a goy and a yid made the kli, that's already a different shaila, right? Yesh umam koine b'shvach kli, some machlokes in the Gemara in Baba Kama. Al kaponim, the problem is that when a Jew makes something, it could be his koine. We'll talk about that maybe at a different time, but al kaponim, just to realize that it has to have been owned by a goy. The fact that a goy made it doesn't help you. So, for example, if you go to a silver store and a silver store there's a yid there who owns the store and he's making a beautiful becha, you don't have to toivel that because a yid made it and a yid owned it in that case. So, everybody said there's a lot of different shaylas. We'll try to go through as much as we can. Now, there's an issa to use the kli before toiveling it. Okay? Some hold, the Oizurah, for example, holds this way, the Medaik, Shlomo Zalman is Medaik, the Shagasari, that's in Chiv Doraisa, it's an issa Doraisa to use the kli before it was toiveled. Most hold in the Be'alocha, Lamaisa, Alocha, Lamaisa, the Chofetz Chaim, and Shin Chov Gimel, Paskins, that it's a Durabonon to use it. Rav Moshe's Machalik and Igros Moshe, between the kli, in other words, are you allowed to use something that should have been toiveled that wasn't toiveled? So Rav Moshe's machalik between if it needed the kli or it did not need the kli. L'dugma, was it a piece of schnitzel or was it chicken soup? If it was a schnitzel, no, but the evidence will be okay because at the end of the day, nishka v'elech doesn't really need the plate. It's nice to have the plate, but it wasn't necessary. Masha'ing in a bowl of soup, Rav Moshe says, is not shaykh without the bowl, and therefore it could asa the food in that case. Rav Moshe Shtomach once told me when I was walking him from the shul to his house, he said to me, by the way, you know that you're not allowed to leave a kli in your home that wasn't toiveled. So now we have to understand, if you buy Keilim for the office, for the warehouse, for whatever it may be, if it requires tefillah, there could be this an issa for a person to leave it in his home, even though Lamaisa, Remen Chasisach has a tshuva to be making on that, but Akabon Moshe Shtomach told me that it is a problem. Using it once without tefillah, famous heta, right? You're allowed to use it once without tefillah, right? So Lamaisa, it took me a long time to find a marmokim, and I was able to find the Tosus Rid in the Gemara in Avodah Zarah in the Sugya that once the Taina B'derech arrives, so it brings a remez that maybe there's a heta. La'alocha l'maisa, there is absolutely no heta. All the poskim or maskim, there's no heta to use anything that requires tefillah once without Tevilas. That's the psak of the Ramah, the Aruch HaShulchan, the Balatanya, Shulchan Aruch Harav, the poskim like Shlomo Zalman, and others. Now there are eitzes of what to do if you cannot tovel it, such as give it to a goy and borrow it back. The Shulchan Aruch Yerideh Kuf Aleph brings down this eitzah that you give it to a goy as a matana, and then you borrow it back. Which, by the way, could be an eitzah in certain offices, which maybe we'll get to that at a different time. But that's the halacha over there. Let's end with one last shaila, and then tomorrow, Be'ez Hashem, we're going to try to go through as much as we can. Which materials are chayiv in Tevilas Keilim? That's important. We have to know what's chayiv in Tevilas Keilim, and then tomorrow we'll talk about some of their Tevilim. So the Torah mentions, I'll say in English, the Torah mentions 6 materials that are chayiv in Tevilas Keilim. Those 6 materials are gold, silver, copper, steel, tin, and lead. So the shaila is, what about aluminium, right? Aluminum. Right, these pans, right? What's the shaila in that case? So Rebelsky in his tshuvas in Shulchan Halevi Chelik Aleph says he went through the physics of trying to understand if aluminum pans have the same din as metal, and he wants to tie now up chemistry. No, it is not metal, and therefore it could be it's not nichlal in the Torah of Tevilas Keilim. Reb Moshe in Igros Moshe has a suffix if it's required, if it's included or not, because the Torah said 6 types of metals and nothing else. As Reb Moshe says, I don't know if aluminum pans are included or not. L'maisa, many hold that there is a chiyuv. Shevet Halevi Rav Ozner Zatzal held it's a chiyuv d'oraisa. Igros Moshe held it was a d'Rabbanon, and Rebbe Kamenetsky held it was Potter Legamri. L'maisa, most hold that you should tovel it without a bracha. Aluminum pans I'm talking about in that case. We'll get to disposable in a moment. Glass, Pischei Tshuva, Yerideh Kuf Chav Aleph says very simply that it's doimet to metal because it can be melted down, and just like metal can be melted, glass can also. Memelo, it's nichlal in that case, but it's a d'Rabbanon, and it needs to be done without a bracha in that case. With a bracha, with a bracha, but it's a d'Rabbanon. It's a brachos. Maybe we'll talk about a different time. Whether we do brachos or not on Tevilas Keilim, that's a whole different sugya. Maybe we'll get to it tomorrow. Pyrex, Corel, all different types of things are types of glass. With a bracha, you would be tovel it. Wood and stone would not require tefillah b'chlal. China, ceramic, and porcelain are big shaylas because they sometimes are coated with glass, which means if it's coated with glass, if they're expensive, for sure they would require tefillah, in that case, Rabbanon with the bracha. But many of the cheaper ones are not actually coated with glass, which means according to that, there's no way to melt it down, and therefore there's no tefillah in that case. The Aruch HaShulchan and other Darkei Tshuva and others held you should tovel these things, like china and ceramic, without a bracha, and that's the minig of most places, is that they tovel it without a bracha. Hard plastic, not disposable plastic, but hard plastic. What is the din of hard plastic? So that's a big shaila. Do we say it's doimer to glass and metal because it can be melted down, which it can, or do we say it's a new mitzias, panam chodashas balakan, and therefore it's a new mitzias? Maybe there was no takona, maybe there was no gzeira on such a thing. Remaisa the minchas yisrael has a tshuva chelik gimel simanai involved where he passes avad you should tovel it. Moshe Steinberg told me to do the same thing. Hard plastic, talking about what you serve. Let's say for example kids, or they have Tupperware, they have hard plastic that people use for containers, for storage, whatever. So that Moshe Steinberg and the minchas yisrael held to tovel. Many hold that it does not require Tevilah, as we pass in the Chazon Ish, Igros Moshe, the Chalkes Yaakov. Disposable, when it comes to disposable, Shevet Halevi, Reb Shlomo Zalman, and Reb Zirv Orbach told me Lemaisa, if you're going to use it just a few times, there are those that hold you should tovel it even from the beginning. Reb Moshe has a tshuva that he says if it gets ruined each time you use it, and the more you use it, more ruined it gets till you throw it out, it doesn't require tefillah from the beginning. By the way, if you buy aluminum pan with the badatz edis charedus, right, it's a gevaldige maila because it was owned by Yidden, and therefore there's no shaila Tevilas Keilim even if you use it 100 times because it was always owned by Yidden, and therefore there's no Tevilas Keilim in such a thing. We have to end, but the last shayla, we'll just end with this, is Moshe Steinberg told me that the Chazon Ish was very makpid that when he bought a jar of coffee, a glass jar of coffee, he spilled out the contents immediately because he was using a glass clear, it was never toveled. What is the heta? A, to use it, and B, if you take some coffee and you take too much of a spoon and you tip some back, are you allowed to reuse it? If you, maybe you could time it the first time you're using it, it's like a clip, it's like a shell, it's just a holder. But now I've taken a spoon of coffee and now I try to spill some back, am I allowed to do that? Be'ez Hashem tomorrow with many more shaylas. Have a wonderful day.